So like Shelby said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Cavall. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Marketing Essentials. We are a digital marketing and sales agency here in Minster, Ohio, but we also have team members and some clients down around the Troy area and the Dayton market. So really excited to be able to do another webinar. We did a couple already with the Troy Chamber over the last year. And so this is kind of going to be a really fun one, I think, with a lot of really jam-packed information because there's so many different things that goes into social media. And so we're going to kind of go through things. If you have any questions as we go along, definitely put them in the chat. I will be monitoring that. And so we can keep this super informal, and I'll interject with questions as we go along. But with that, I will go ahead and hand things over to our social media guru, Jessica Lammers, and she will take it from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. And hello, everybody. I'm glad to see you all here this afternoon. Or I guess it's still morning yet. I'm thinking lunch because I see peanut butter and jelly in front of me. But today we're going to be talking about social media and how it ties into business, just like peanut butter and jelly go together. So let me get to the next slide here. So there's so many social media channels. You've got Facebook, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Twitter, Instagram, and those channels are only growing. Well, for today, we're going to focus on Facebook and LinkedIn because those are the channels that most businesses are going to use predominantly, and they're the two biggest ones that are out there right now, and Facebook being the biggest. So you're probably wondering, okay, so why Facebook, why LinkedIn? So from the last count, Facebook has 2.8 billion monthly active users. There's so many people on Facebook. I would say the majority of us are on Facebook that's in this meeting right now. 6 out of 10 Americans use Facebook daily. So again, a lot of people that we know, no matter whatever walks of life, age, gender, everybody's on Facebook. And then they actually calculated, especially with the pandemic and how many people have been, really connecting through social media. People spend an average of 19.5 hours on the Facebook app on their phone or tablet or wherever each month. That's a lot of time spent on one social media channel. And then on the business side of things, over 200 million small businesses utilize Facebook, and they utilize the tools that Facebook gives them. And they're seeing a great return. And it's most tools that Facebook provides outside of the paid advertising is absolutely free. So they are using those tools, especially with the pandemic and not getting as many foot traffic as they did in when the pandemic hit last year. They were at the mercy of using these free tools and helping to generate sales while they weren't getting the foot traffic into their store. Now, on the flip side, LinkedIn is more of the professional side of things. We know LinkedIn as where we would go to look for a new job or where employers could go in and look for new employees. Well, LinkedIn has really expanded upon that. They're still really good at what they were first developed for, but now they're making it a more professional platform where Facebook is more casual. You're seeing photos of families, pets, and all that great stuff. LinkedIn is more focused on the B2B company and sometimes B2C, depending on where your audience lives. So as of right now, LinkedIn has 722 million active members, so less than Facebook. But that's because people are primarily using this for work. They're primarily using this to look for jobs. 4 out of 5 people on LinkedIn actually drive business decisions. So I really like this stat because now that gives you an idea of people that are the decision makers at any company. 4 out of 5 people are those decision makers, and maybe the people that you're looking for. There's 55 million companies that are on LinkedIn currently. And then in last year, which wasn't a shocking stat, there was a 55% increase in conversations going on just in LinkedIn, whether it would be on their LinkedIn messages or they're communicating on LinkedIn Live. So they saw a huge increase last year as far as conversations taking place on the platform. So if you create a profile on Facebook or LinkedIn or both, there's a few foundational steps that you should consider. So I always say optimize, optimize, optimize. You want to make sure that your profile is being found. And the great thing about Facebook and LinkedIn is that Google actually crawls those social media channels. so that there's a chance if somebody's typing in a certain keyword to find your business, there's an even greater chance that they might come upon your Facebook page or come upon your LinkedIn page or both. So when I say optimize, it's just basically making sure every aspect of your profile is clearly filled out. So of course, the first thing is your logo. You have to make sure that your logo is out there because many people may know you by your logo or your visual branding. So making sure that your logo is clearly displayed in the profile picture is very important. The next one is the banner image. So the image that's at the very top of your page, either on Facebook or LinkedIn. Some people ignore that one, but that's a very important piece of your profile because it gives a clear representation of your company. And I'll give you an example here in just a moment. The about section, just making sure that each section that platform provides is clearly completed. Tell your brand story, tell them what you do, give them more information about your products or your service. Give them everything, and kind of think about too, the frequently asked questions. What are your customers asking? That's the type of stuff that you want to put in your about section because your customer is going in and reading these sections to get to know you a little bit more. And as I mentioned earlier, Google does crawl these social media channels, so including those keywords that you know that your customer is putting in, making sure that those keywords are being placed into that about section so that helps Google find you. Utilizing tabs. So this will make sense once I pull it back up, but there's different tabs and different ways that you can set up your Facebook profile, and this is different. This is kind of different aspects between Facebook and LinkedIn. So you can utilize tabs to display your services. You can utilize tabs to predominantly show your videos or your photos or whatever is important to you. And then last but not least, adding photos and videos, giving your customers an inside look of who you are, what your products can, or what your products or services can do. So I'm just going to switch over to Facebook just for one moment, just to kind of explain a little bit more about these different steps. So as you can see on our marketing essentials, and this is on the back end, so this is if you were to log into your Facebook page, this would be the first thing that you would see. So you would want to make sure that your logo is clearly displayed in this profile photo. If you have a very horizontal logo, it may be a little bit harder to see, but if you have something just the shape like our diamonds, that's what we want to display here. And then the banner photo that I talked about, again, just gives, you can put your tagline in here. You can show a photo that really displays of who you are as a culture in your company. There's a lot of different things that you can do in here. The thing you don't want to do is leave it blank. So just making sure that you have something here that clearly defines who you are as a company. It stays within your branding. And it's just kind of fun to look at. So just making sure that you have this filled out. Now, I did talk about the tabs that Facebook offers. So you can set there's different ways you can set up these templates. And this might change because I know that Facebook is rolling out a new page experience and we don't have a whole lot of information on how that really looks right now. But as far as I know, the tabs are staying. And what these tabs are is you can go in and say, okay, I want to highlight my services. So you can put your services in here and we can add these and edit these as much as we'd like. You can put photos and videos in here if you want, but this just gives the viewer an overview of the different things that Marketing Essentials can do. You can have your reviews at the forefront, which I highly recommend because people are reading them anyway. And there's also groups. You can have your videos, you can have offers. There's so many different things that you can do with this. But then if you go into the About section, so once you type in your address, Facebook automatically add a map in here. You just have to make sure that it's correct. Hours of operation, definitely have that filled out because people do pay attention to that, especially if they feel like they need to actually come to you and see you in person. Making sure that your contact information is completely filled out. And then there's different sections in here that you can play around with. They actually have more about sections, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but with this new page rollout, they're going to simplify this a little bit more. But just making sure that your about section is filled out and just gives a very clear overview of who you are and what your company does. Now on the flip side, I'm going to view this as a member instead of the back end here. This looks a little bit different. So LinkedIn, as with any other social channel this year, changed the interface as far as what profiles look like. So these tabs you really can't do anything about. This is LinkedIn standard, but again, they do have that about section where you can give an overview. You can obviously give your contact information. So just making sure that you're filling out every single field that you possibly can. That way your customer can get to know a little bit more about you. They also have just your tabs for your posts, but they also added this video tab. So this is where, and this will make sense when I go in this next slide here, why video can be very important, because they are emphasizing the video content. And then just like Facebook, you obviously want to put your logo here in your profile photo and then a banner image. Doesn't have to be the exact same thing as Facebook. You can always switch it up, but just keeping consistent within your brand, and it clearly shows who you are as a company. All right, so once we do those foundational steps, the next question I usually get is, what do I post? So I'm going to go into that a little bit here. And the one thing I always tell clients is to make sure that you're providing content that provides them value or that entertains them. And why I say entertains is because we like to see videos that make us laugh or really engage us what we're interested in. So what I usually say is start with what your customers ask about frequently, because that can be really good content, very easy content to put together, whether you do it in a video, photo, or whichever way you want to present it. But this is already answering questions that your customers have, and they may not even know they have that question yet, but eventually they would have gotten there, and now they've got the answer and they can move forward. And then as far as entertains, like if you've got really big personalities in your company that likes to do videos, and they can present content that's relevant to your company, or a fun way to demonstrate a product, for example, that's the kind of stuff that your audience is interested in, because it engages them. They love video because now they get to know you as the personality of your company, and now they get to see a demo of your service or your product. So you're going to hear me say video a lot, because video is the most favorite type of content throughout any social channel that you go to. I'll pick on Instagram. Instagram is just, fully images or video. There's nothing else in there that you can post. And little birdies have told me that Facebook and LinkedIn are going to start following suit, where it's just going to be mainly video, or it's just going to mainly be photos. So the more that we start using video now, when this starts rolling out in the next 2 or 3 years, or however long it takes, we will be ready to go, and we'll be more comfortable with video. So a couple of ideas that you can post is, give your viewers an inside look at your business. Do a behind the scenes. I'm just kind of throwing an idea out there. If you're a flower shop, do a step-by-step of how you did this bouquet. You can show them, like for Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, like, look how many flowers we have in our cooler right now. That's just a fun, engaging post that people really like to dive into. Give them an inside look of your product or service and how that can benefit them. You do a demo, you can walk through a service. If there's a service that you provide, you can tell them, like, hey, you come in for a half-an-hour consultation. After that, we do X, Y, Z. So now they're not really sure if they want to sign up yet, but this makes them feel more comfortable and more apt to sign up to do that consultation and then work further with you. And another part of this is utilizing Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live. So when I say Facebook Live or anything live, people cringe a little bit. And it's not as scary as it seems. The more that you use the tools that Facebook and LinkedIn provides you, the more they're going to show that content to your audience. So just a little overview of what Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live is, if you're not familiar. You can use Facebook Live on your phone, or you can use it on your desktop. And it's essentially what it says, it's live. So once you go live, you can do a presentation, you can talk about a product, or just talk about your business or something big that's going on. But when you hit that live button and people are following you, they're going to get a notification. And it could come up on their phone, it can come up on their desktop, however they have their notifications set up. and they're instantly going to plug in and see what you have to say. So that's the great thing about live. Again, I know it's scary, but people understand it's live and anything can happen, but that's what makes it fun.
And I would add in that, the other part of Facebook Live is the fact that once you're done being live, that will live in your feed. So that video, when you're done, can be repurposed. It can be, reshared. People can come back and make comments later. So, for example, if you want to do a quick webinar, or you want to do a quick run through, or maybe you're opening up a new office, like whatever those things are, you can go live, capture that content, have it real time. But then, a day or two later, you could have somebody else come back and see that content or reshare that content. So it really allows you to get a lot more bang for your buck out of doing that than versus just, having one post and then it goes away. So.
Yep. Another thing I love about this is people can ask you questions in real time. So if you've got someone holding your phone and videotaping you, they can moderate this chat as an example here. And if there's a question, you can answer it live and they don't have to wait for the answer. And that could be a question somebody else is thinking, but they're too afraid to ask. So that's another great thing about this is you get a live feed of all the comments that are coming through and they can ask questions. And we always encourage people, if you go on live, especially if you have viewers, to give them time to ask questions and you can answer those live. LinkedIn Live is a little bit different. It's similar in functionality, but with LinkedIn, they want you to actually apply. Facebook, you automatically have live on your Facebook page. There's no application process or anything like that. LinkedIn actually has an application process you have to go through. It's nothing terrible. They don't want to give it to everyone. So if this is something you're interested in, and before you start, building out your live schedule, this is something first you would have to do. You would just have to go in and apply now. But it's very similar to Facebook. It'll, of course, it lives on LinkedIn. You can still see a feed of folks that are asking questions or engaging with your content that you could engage back. So this is another great platform to try LinkedIn Live and just see how that performs on this channel. And of course, you can always do pre-recorded video. We do that here at Marketing Essentials all the time too. But just as long as you're practicing video as part of your content, that's really the point that I'm trying to drive here. Of course, photos is always a good option as well. Again, gives that viewer the behind the scenes look, and they get to see you, they get to see the people that work at this company. So again, people still will engage with photos. And last but not least, use the tools that the platform provides you. So there's a couple other tools I wanted to point out outside of the live features. So one for Facebook that just came out a few weeks ago. It's called their new Q&A. So again, this gives your audience another channel to ask their questions. Because as you know, a lot of us don't get on the phone anymore. We're texting, we're on our social media channels. So this is just another way to help your audience have a chance to ask questions. So this Q&A feature is when you go in to create a post, and I can show you a demo here in a second. But basically you can say, hey, I'll use this example. My name is James King and I'm a photographer in Memphis, ask me anything. So that gives them an indicator that, okay, James is on here now, you're ready to answer questions. So now I can start asking a question and I should get a response fairly quickly. So all of these questions and answers will actually live like you would see comments on a Facebook post. So it's not a video, it's nothing like that, it's all text, but this gives them a way to ask those questions and get a quick answer. So just to flip back to Facebook here, I can show you exactly where that's at. It's just right here where you go to create a post. And then where it says add your post, and this looks different on mobile. This is what it looks like on desktop. And then you can do that host a Q&A. And then you can add whatever you would like in here. If you want to say specific to a certain product or a certain service, you can certainly do that. Or if you just want an overall just a quick Q&A for, ask me anything, that's certainly okay too. And you can toggle and make, whatever colors you would like. And then once you click next, it'll prompt you to post it. So it's pretty easy to set up. And then the other tool that I wanted to talk about was on LinkedIn. They do have other ways that you can interact with your audience on LinkedIn. So you have polls and you have voting. So this is our friends over at HubSpot. They use this quite a lot, and they ask very interesting questions. So you can ask off the wall questions. You can ask questions about your product or your services, or just kind of get an overall feel of what your audience is looking for as far as content. So for this example, HubSpot put finish this sequence, HSN, QVC, and then I can go in and select any of these that I feel like would be next in that sequence. There's no right or wrong answers. Nobody can see how I answered it unless I go down here and engage with others that have engaged with this post. So that's commenting and just having a conversation, which is really what you're trying to do, is just drive a conversation. And really, out of all those conversations and the things that you see when they vote, that can give you another idea of what to post next. So let's say I say TikTok. Okay, well, maybe I need to talk more about TikTok. And if that's something that you do, like for Marketing Essentials, we dabble in all the social channels, then that would give me an indicator like, oh, 5 people were really interested in TikTok. What should I post next that's about TikTok, and how can I help them on that certain social media channel? So the next question I get is what not to post. So this is kind of a trickier question because it all depends on the business and how you've already kind of set up with whoever your social media manager is, basically letting them know, like, this is what I don't want you to say. These are the words I don't want you to use, which I'll talk about that here in a second. But across the board, just don't be salesy, especially on Facebook. Facebook, like I said, is very casual and fun. So your post should match that theme. Obviously, you're obviously there to sell a product or a service, but kind of position it in a more fun way. People are like, well, my product is kind of boring. I don't know how to promote that. That makes you think outside the box. Like, well, how can I make this product or this service not boring? How can I promote this in a really, really fun way? And there are ways, no matter what product or service that you have. Don't ignore comments or reviews. I know there's a lot of things being said on social media. Some of them are pretty out there, but my recommendation is don't ignore them, especially if they're negative. And just always go in with a plan, which I'll talk about here in that last bullet point. Know your audience. So if you know who your audience is, there's probably certain topics or themes that can be offensive to them, or could start a whole negative conversation around a certain topic. So just be very choosy on the type of themes and things that you talk about as a company. Just kind of think through it and just ask yourself, is this going to cause something negative? Like, am I going to get a lot of negative comments about this? So just get to know your audience a little bit. That's where those polls can be really, really interesting and helpful in finding that content, but that'll help you to know what not to post. And then the last one is just develop a brand reputation guideline. These can be super extensive, they can be super simple. And usually these guidelines will provide a list of words that you can use and words that you can't use. So that gives your team, whoever's posting on your social media, a guide as to what they can post and what they can't post. This guide can include sample social posts to not use. Like if you've used a post in the past that just did not go over very well, you can add that to that guide, and that tells them like, okay, I'm not going to post about this topic, or I'm not going to post something a certain way. These can also have sample messages on how to respond to negative comments, because a lot of people they get to these negative comments and are like, okay, so how do I respond to this? Not emotionally, but just kind of taking a step back, and how can I professionally respond to that negative comment? And a lot of people need that guidance because they don't really know how you as a business owner, or how the business in general wants to respond, because you want to be consistent in all those messages.
And I would say one of the things you see this probably more in the business to consumer side of things, but if you're offering a product or a service and you get a negative review, so let's say, for example, you owned a restaurant, somebody had a bad experience, they had a bad hamburger, service was slow, food was cold, like whatever that is. Oftentimes you might see a comment that comes in on Facebook like, hey, service here was terrible, didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. One of the things is you can do is to Jess's point, make sure you acknowledge the comment, right? So you can come in and, hey, I apologize. I'm sorry that you had a, bad experience. We would love to talk with you on how we can make your next experience better. Then what you can do is direct them to direct message you so that your conversation is no longer in the comments. So you could have them, you could say, hey, please, please direct message us so we can, we can work through this with you. That way, what's going to be shown to the public is the fact that you responded and acknowledged the customer, but then you don't have to worry about, getting in the weeds of a conversation. And, sometimes they will do that. Sometimes they'll make another comment, say, well, I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, you've made your acknowledgement publicly that you're trying to reach out. You won't always win, but from a brand standpoint, that's super important that you acknowledged it, you're out there, and then, sometimes it'll just be there and it is what it is. But, everybody who's especially in the service industry, that's something that, show that you're listening, show that you're open to conversation, and then, see where it goes from there.
Yep, good points, Grant. Okay, so I want to take a few minutes to explain the difference between an organic post and a paid post. So organic post is just like I did for when I went into Facebook. If I want to go in and create a post, whether it's text, video, whatever, that is an organic post because there's no money behind it to push it. And basically it's uncontrolled. You can't really control where it's going to be shown. It's going to be on your page, but you don't know whose newsfeed it's going to pop into. I mean, obviously, some of your audience might pop onto your page because they want to check out what's going on at your business, but that is a decision that they made. Now, you can't just, when you post it on your page, it goes to a newsfeed, and that's basically where it ends up. It doesn't go anywhere else, and it's just basically you're at the mercy of Facebook and LinkedIn to decide who gets to see that in their newsfeed. So like I said, it's uncontrolled, it's unpredictable. You don't really get any data back on who actually saw it. There's some data, and I'll kind of dive into data here in a second, but you don't control who's actually going to see it. So with that being said, paid social advertising is different. So when you put money behind it, then you have a little bit more control. You can actually set who to target, and some of the targeting that you can do is by gender, by age, by location for sure. And you can also narrow down the interests. If you're trying to get business owners, you might want to target business admins that are on these pages on Facebook. A lot of this information, it's kind of scary to say, but Facebook probably knows a lot more about you than you know about you because they've been collecting that information. They know your behaviors. So you get to utilize that information that Facebook's been collecting when you do a paid social ad, so that you can, I'll go back to the flower shop. If you're trying to, find, especially during Valentine's Day, you're probably going to target males because they want to buy something for their wives or girlfriends or whatever for Valentine's Day. So you can actually narrow down, and that way you're not spending money on someone that's probably not going to buy from your product because they're not interested in Valentine's Day. So that's the biggest benefit for social advertising. You see a higher ROI, you get a lot more analytics, a better view of who's actually engaging with that ad. You also get, there's also different ways that you can get your ad in front of people outside of the newsfeed. So like with organic posting, it's on your page's newsfeed and it's possibly on your followers' newsfeed. At least you hope so. But at least with the paid social advertising, you can tell them where you want them to go. So for Facebook, for example, you can tell them to display it in Messenger. You can tell them to display it on videos before they start a video. You can display it in stories. So the Facebook stories that you see at the very top of on either the app or the desktop. So you get extra eyes on that content. So that's another benefit of that. LinkedIn is a little bit different. Obviously, you get higher up on the newsfeed, so more people see it. There is some video, there is some stories, since LinkedIn does have stories now. So it's a little bit similar, it's just placed a little bit different than Facebook. Another great thing is for Facebook, if you use their Facebook Ads Manager, you can actually advertise on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. So now you're covering not just one channel, but 2 channels, and they're all pulling from the same budget. They're all pulling from the same targeting. But you're kind of getting 2 systems now, because Instagram has different information than what Facebook does. So you're utilizing both, and you're doing just one ad, and you're just saying, okay, yes, I want this on Instagram, and you're done. You're not having to build another ad. So that would be my favorite part about Facebook ads. If you know that your audience is primarily on Facebook and Instagram, that's a good option if you decide to do any sort of social advertising. Another question I get out of this is what is a good healthy budget for an ad? So for Facebook, a healthy budget for them would be somewhere between $150 to $500 per month, not per ad, per month. So you can take whatever that budget is and allocate that per ad. Now, if you want to talk about per ad, I would say a good starting point is $100. And you can let that run for a couple weeks and see what that gets you. You can run it for a month. It's a lot of trial and error, because Facebook is, initially is learning more about your audience, and it picks up pretty quickly. But at least you'll know like what budget works for me, how, and it kind of depends too on, did I get more sales out of this ad, or did I get more traffic to my website that, initially got me more sales, or, more inquiries coming in from Facebook ads. So that's a lot of, just kind of back and forth, and a lot of trial and error. For LinkedIn, I would say a good healthy budget would be $250 per ad per month. They're a little higher because they have a smaller audience that they are targeting, and there's a lot more targeting capabilities in there than what Facebook has, because with LinkedIn, since it's more professional, you can actually target people that work at certain companies. You can target people by certain interests like you do on Facebook, but a lot of it is more professional, and normally we're looking at a higher cost per click for those LinkedIn ads. So I want to dive in a little bit into key analytics for to gauge success. So you're out there posting videos, photos, and all that good stuff, but you're probably wondering, okay, is this worth all the time and effort that I'm putting into it? So there's ways to check that out, especially for organic. Obviously with paid, you get a whole like report on how that ad performed. But when you're putting stuff out there constantly, which I recommend making sure that you're posting regularly. But there's ways that you can check that out to see if that's actually working. So the first point here is, are people reaching your page? So that's a really good question. So we can gauge that by seeing how many page views you've had in that month, and how much engagement that you're getting out of that page per month. You want to know like what content is performing. So this is something I always say to always watch, because there might be some content that you're putting a lot of time and effort into, but then it's not bringing anything back. So then it's a good roadmap, or these analytics give you a pretty good roadmap on where you should go, where you should be spending most of your time doing videos, photos, or however you're promoting that content. So a lot of those key indicators is engagement. So how many people are actually clicking to watch that video, or to look at that photo? How many people are you reaching? So this could be people that saw it in the newsfeed. This could be people when they comment, that people saw, oh, so-and-so commented on this, I better check it out. So just making sure that your content is actually being out there, with your followers and beyond. And then reactions, so the likes, the shares, the comments is obviously a good indicator that it's resonating with your audience. So that could be a really good topic to keep talking about. And the last one is it generating traffic to your website? So Google Analytics is a really good tool to help you navigate that. You can actually narrow down by channel. So you can say Facebook got, brought in 400 sessions, 400 people into my website. You can narrow down by the post. You can do all that fun stuff. You can actually get down into a rabbit hole with Google Analytics, but it does give you a really good indicator on how the social media is performing for you. So if we look at Facebook, and in case you're not familiar with their analytics, when you're logged in over here on the left side, there's an insights button. Keep in mind, Facebook will only give you either data from the last 7 days up to 28 days, and you can't really tell them what date range you want to look at. You have to go by whatever they already have preset. So when you first get into Insights, you're going to get a page summary, and then right next to it, you're going to have, last 7 days, or do we want to go by like yesterday, today? You can narrow down that way too. But if you want to look at the last month at a glance, you can just do last 28 days. And this gives you a pretty good indicator on how things are rolling on your Facebook page. So you can see right away how many page views that Marketing Essentials got from April 14th to May 11th. You can see likes, you can see reach. So again, this is your post reach. How many people in general did we reach this month with the post that we generated in this time frame? You can see post engagement and videos, and then of course page followers. But then as you scroll down, you can actually narrow down by post. So right away I can say, oh wow, this one had a huge reach for May 4th. So 290 people saw this post. 24 people actually posted. So you can see a little key up here that tells you what these colors mean. 24 people clicked into that post and 13 people reacted. So then I want to check it out even more and click on this post, and Facebook's going to give you a little bit more data. How long they were on that video. So that's also a really good indicator too. How well did they engage with that video? And you can see who was watching. So there was some recommendations that Facebook will just randomly throw these videos out in front of people that may like it. And that's all based on their algorithm. That's nothing that I could control when I posted this video. I can see that 81.5% of my followers saw this video. So it gives you like a really good rundown on how well this video performed. It'll even tell me by region, country, age, and gender. So you're getting a lot of information just on this free post. Now for LinkedIn, you'll have to go in and make sure you're viewing as an admin. And then I can go up here at the top where it says analytics. And they've got theirs broken down by 3 different categories here. So you can see at a glance, how many followers do I have? You can go to see, and you can kind of get a little bit more granular in that just to see like the follower metrics. You can see the current list of followers that we have. You can look at the locations where they're located. You can see visitors, so get some information on how many people visited our page this last 30 days. You can see unique visitors and custom button clicks. And you can also get some of that other visitor information. You can even see what their job functions are, which is kind of a neat little tidbit of information. And then lastly, I want to see what content is performing. So this will give you a highlight how many reactions, comments, and shares we've gotten. And then as you scroll down, you can see the individual posts that we have on here. And then you can kind of take a look and see impressions, which is kind of like your reach to see what those numbers look like. Video views is very interesting when you're posting videos. So this one got 249 video views, which is awesome. You can see how many people clicked in, and then you can see the reactions. So this indicates to me that the video was very successful. What else can I do with this video moving forward? Should I repost it, which is absolutely fine. Should I take some of that content and break it out into other content pieces and just really try to dive into that topic a little bit more? So just to wrap up here, I just want to make sure I have plenty of time for questions, but some key takeaways to take from this is just make sure that you're setting that foundation before you start, really posting and getting into that fun stuff. And just make sure you're fully optimizing your profile. Make sure your branding's clearly visual, that your about sections are all filled out and ready to go. And then once you do that, it's not done because things change in your business all the time. There's different keywords that might pop up that you want to go in and update. So always keep your profile up to date, even if you mark it in your calendar, like, okay, let me check in on this 6 to 8 months from now. And you can always go in and update and optimize that way. And always make sure you're posting regularly. I would say for Facebook, if anything, at least post 3 times a week. LinkedIn is about the same, but don't ever be afraid to post more than once a day, because people that may have logged in the morning. So I usually log in the morning, like as I'm getting ready for work. I may see something that morning, and then somebody that logs in at lunch is probably not going to see that same thing. So you're going to reach different audiences depending on the time and day that you put it in. So don't be afraid to post more than once a day. Provide value always. Find ways that you can help your customer realize that they need your service or product, and just providing value that way. Also adding that little entertainment factor in there as well. Video is huge. So it's only going to get bigger, especially on social channels, because a lot of them are starting to put more focus on video. So the more that you practice it now, the more prepared you're going to be as these social channels continue to transform. And I have a feeling in the next 2 or 3 years, you're probably going to see a majority of video on these channels. Create a plan for negative comments and reviews. It'll make your life easier, especially when those pop up. You're prepared, you're ready to go, and you're ready to go back in and comment back to those comments or to those reviews. And then finally, always check your analytics. That way you know that you're providing the right content. You know when you need to shift if need be. And that way you know that you're resonating with your audience. So with that, I'm ready for questions.
Jess, it looks like one question is there any way that you can find out who viewed your posts on your Facebook? And that would be specifically looking at the business page.
So you want to know like specifically like a name that viewed at your page? I'm just trying to understand the question a little bit. Because one way you can go, you can't actually narrow down by the person. You can only see at a glance how many people actually looked at your page. So if you go over, I kind of did that quickly, sorry, muscle memory here, but off to the left side here, you can narrow down like page views. You can look at sections. So if you want to know like which content that's being viewed the most, you can scroll down here, total people who viewed by, by section. You can go by age and gender, which that one is not enough. So if you don't have enough coming in, that enough information, it won't show. And then you can see top sources, which is always Facebook. I don't know why they have that in there. I've never seen it do anything else. But as far as knowing who actually goes in and views, there's no way, because and this is only going to get worse. I don't want to say worse because it's kind of a good thing, but Facebook is really putting an emphasis on privacy. So with this new rollout, you soon will not be able to see who even likes your page, and your friends can't see it either. So what I mean by that is, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but if it'll show in this view or not, I might have to go to a different one. I'm going to pick on Troy Chamber. How about that? So if I go to Troy Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, soon this section here where I can see that Grant likes this page, that's going away, because one, they're taking likes away since it's so confusing to have likes and followers, but they also don't want to make it so that I know that Grant likes this page, because really it's none of my business. That's how they kind of view it. So that having the capability to actually see who views your page or who likes your page is just totally going away on Facebook. So that's just, just a little bit of tidbit on that. And also with that being said, with the likes going away, soon people won't be able to see that I even like this post, because sometimes if you see someone likes something, it might pop up in your news feed, or if I comment on something, then sometimes it'll pop up on the news feed. Soon that is going to go away. The only time people know that you interact with a post is if you actually share it to your page, because then you're giving Facebook permission that, hey, I don't care that people know that I interacted with this post.
Jess, we do have another one. Let's see, how can you tie Google Analytics to your website and your social media pages?
So we can do a follow-up, because it's kind of hard to explain how to connect that, but it's more so you're connecting it to your website, and it's tracking that information. Google Analytics will be able to tell that, hey, this person came in from Facebook and they came from this certain post. So it's mostly tying it to your website and then letting Google Analytics do its thing. It can see where people are coming in. It has like different codes that it follows. So we can always do a follow-up on how to hook that up on your Google Analytics, because I haven't personally hooked one up on a website. That's out of my wheelhouse, but we can always find some instructions on how to do that.
Yep. And Jess, I'll just let you read this comment versus reading it, then you can, how about that, from Nicholas?
Okay, one second. Okay, so and Nicholas, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm guessing what you mean is using a service that you can create a post that's going to go to Facebook, and then you would click to say, okay, I want to share this exact same post to Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all those other channels. Certain programs you can use for this is Hootsuite or Buffer. That's a couple of tools. I know now they have really limited their free version of that. So it's more of a paid service, but there are services out there that can do that. I will say, as far as efficiency goes, it's great when you want to get a lot done and scheduled and know, like, hey, on Monday, I'm going to spend 2 hours getting all of my posts scheduled and ready to roll on all these channels. Those services are great, because then the rest of the week, you know, your channels are still active. You don't have to worry about it anymore. I will say Facebook is very, very picky when it comes to third-party apps. They do have their own scheduling platform called Creator Studio, where you can go in and schedule those posts. You can cross-post it into Instagram only. It won't cross-post to any other channel because they don't own those other channels. So if you go into your page and go into publishing tools, and they favor these just because it's their tool, it's not a third-party tool. So you don't have to worry about, you know, them either really, like, they'll still post it. I shouldn't say they won't post your post at all, but when they see it's coming from a third-party app, they have a tendency of just shooting that post to the bottom of the newsfeed because you're not using what they provide. They're kind of stingy that way, but that's just how Facebook always has been. So Creator Studio, you can go in here and you can actually create your posts in here. Then once you have it created, you can click cross post to Instagram and you're done. You can have it scheduled out at the same time.
Yeah, and I would say another one outside of Hootsuite and Buffer would be HubSpot. So HubSpot would be another good one. There's a free version of HubSpot for some of the marketing stuff, but that would be another good one to kind of click and play around with as well.
Yep.
So Colleen, I know you asked, when will some of those features be going away on Facebook? So just back to the those privacy settings. I know we've already started to see some of those go away. Has Facebook kind of announced a drop dead, or are we looking at the next couple months?
I'm seeing it starting. They were hoping to have it rolled out by March, but then Apple iOS dropped the bomb on them and said, hey, you can't serve your ads. And this was more on the paid ad side, more so than an organic side. They put some stipulations on Facebook ads. So they put their focus on that. And now that that's sort of resolved, they're putting their focus on rolling these out. Facebook never gives us a date. They're just saying, hey, this is happening. This is what we're able to tell you right now, or wanting to tell you right now. I have seen some of the new features are rolling out, one of them being that you can interact You know, if you're on your page, and I've caught myself doing this a few times, where if I want to like this Marketing Essentials page, it's going to say Marketing Essentials liked it, not Jessica Lammers. So one of the updates they wanted to put in here was you could toggle between your profile and the actual business profile. It's like Grant said, it's already rolling out. You actually have a choice to utilize the new page experience. Like they always say, okay, you can go ahead and switch this new page experience if you like. You don't like it, you can go back. I always say if you're going to do it, just do it and don't go back, because then it kind of throws everything off, especially with this new page experience. And the only way you can tell if you have it, it should be in your settings, which I haven't seen it on our Facebook page yet. I haven't seen it on our client's Facebook page yet. I know a lot of the bigger influencers on Facebook are starting to see it. So it's a very slow rollout. You should get a notification when yours is ready. So you'll just have to make that decision. Like, am I ready to make this transition? If not, I would write it out for a little bit, let them work the kinks out, because as we know, anything new, there's always some sort of glitch going on. And just really investigate it. If you see another page that's using it, definitely investigate it and just get to know it a little bit more. But that we know that once they start letting us, you know, make that switch, eventually that switch is going to be permanent. So even if you make the switch and then go back to the classic, eventually, and I would say within the year, I would say maybe, you know, fourth quarter, they're probably going to say, okay, this is permanent, this is happening, here you go. They're going to just do it for you. So unfortunately, I don't have a date on when that's all going to change. It could happen tomorrow. Honestly, they do whatever they want to do. It's Facebook. So
something else I would add in would be, you know, I know that at least on this call that there's a lot of individuals who are maybe in the professional services industry. So whether it's insurance, financial advisors, banks, there's a lot of different things that I know that you have to go through from a compliance standpoint. We have a lot of clients that are in these different service areas. So when you start thinking about your social media strategy and what can I be posting, what can I be doing, right? Like there's certain things that you can't do, obviously, for compliance reasons. But one of the things that you can always do, especially if you're a local, so you know, you're a local company versus a JP Morgan Chase versus one of some of these larger ones, is personalize as much as you can. Don't share the stock imagery. Don't do the things that the big banks and the big insurance firms are doing, because you want to look different from them. You know, you're the hometown person. You're the one who, you know, you're likely getting referrals that are word of mouth anyway, right? So how do you start to what I would say is remove the friction in the buying process before you already have the conversation with somebody? So really get into the mind of those individuals who maybe you're meeting with. You know, what are the questions that they ask? What are the things that you can start to talk about? What does the first meeting look like with you? You know, there's some intimidation sometimes to meeting with an advisor or meeting with, you know, somebody if you're getting ready to, you know, seek out a loan, right? So think about those questions, and then that's going to start to inform your content. You know, if there's 10 different questions that you ask, you can do a series that, you know, maybe 1 week you're going to post one question, the second week you do a second question. And so you can really start to think about those things. And, you know, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can use your phone for the picture. You can use your phone for the video. But I would really start to think through those things. And especially if you are serving both B2B and B2C. So maybe you're serving things on, you know, you're looking to do business loans, or maybe you're looking to do work with business owners versus maybe the consumer side of things. Think about the differences in how they buy, what they're looking for, and the channels that they're using, because you're going to have a very different, distinguished approach to how you go after somebody who maybe is a business owner versus somebody who is maybe you know, just your typical consumer. So think through those things, and that's really what's going to help you inform your content when you start to go to market with it. And that's going to help you know, if you're on the B2B side, maybe you should be stronger on LinkedIn versus maybe what you're doing on Facebook. And so on LinkedIn, that's both for your business channel as well as your personal channel, making sure that you're doing things on both of those. And Jess, one more question is it correct that Facebook now gives less presence to posts that have links that take you off of Facebook?
that is absolutely true. Like I said, Facebook is wanting to keep their folks on Facebook. They don't want you to travel away. Not saying that links don't work, because I'm still messing with them on our Facebook page, and I'm still getting clicks. Not as many as I used to, though. So that indicates to me that they're really being, with the algorithm, they're really watching, and if they see there's a click, there's less likely of a chance that they're going to show that in the news feed. So as I mentioned before, just making sure that you're using their tools, because then they're like, oh, hey, great, Marketing Essentials use of Facebook Live. I'm going to put that at the very top of the news feed because you're using their stuff. You're not making that user travel off of Facebook, because just like any other channel, it's not just Facebook. LinkedIn's just as guilty. Google is just as guilty. You'll see that more and more as these channels start to evolve, that they're going to make it so you stay on their platform and you don't go anywhere else. So I'm not saying not to add links, but the more that you're using the tools, the better you're going to be on the good graces of Facebook. Any other questions?